What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of SSPN Position Breakdowns,
Mm.
Ethan. And this is the first one that we were actually like, there was a reason to put all three on the thumbnail. I know technically Julian Champagnie is a restricted free agent, just like a lot of guys that we could potentially bring to training camp this year. But him and Mamu have been in some posts, and they're both restricted free agents, working out in the Spurs facilities and stuff. And especially as we'll get into in this episode, when you consider the way that Champagnie played in the games that he played with the actual Spurs this season, it seems like he has a pretty good argument for a roster spot. But before we get into all of that, Ethan, let's just do an overall look at the small forward position. Give me your thoughts.
I think it's a strong position. We have a little bit of everything. We have some youth along with some experience in Doug McDermott. Keldon Johnson's become our highest scorer, average 22 points per game. Obviously, there are room for improvement for all three of them, but I
Yeah.
don't think there's necessarily like a huge gaping hole where it's like, okay, we got to go out and find a backup small forward. We got to find our future small forward. Like I think it's a pretty solid position.
Yeah, I agree. I think really when you think about all the positions on the roster, other than maybe you could say power forward slash center, depending on what Victor ends up playing.
Yeah,
At least in comparison to point guard, I know that shooting guard feels pretty set. Maybe there's a
yeah.
little bit of questions as if Malachi moves to point. We already talked about all that, but like in point guard, it's like okay, really we're not sure other than Trey Jones, like who for sure is going to be the other part in the rotation. For this one, it's like, okay, we kind of already feel like we know who the three guys are going to be.
Yeah.
Maybe there if the Spurs end up making like a big move on draft night or in free agency, which is unlike them,
Hmm.
maybe that could change this. But just as of right now, which is the point of these whole things, it feels like Keldon Johnson, Doug McDermott, and Julian Champagnie is a pretty good foundation. And especially when you consider, Ethan, looking forward, that this is the last year of Doug's contract, and him and Champagnie's play style is so similar. I think I might have mentioned this in another podcast we've done, but it really feels like, granted a small sample size, but still, it really feels like he could be the heir to Doug after this season.
For sure, for sure. And we'll see what happens at the trade deadline because that's another thing
Absolutely.
to be watching is for Doug McDermott to be moved.
Yep. 13 million last year on his contract. So and can always help whatever team he's on. That's definitely a potential trade deadline target.
But at the same time, how often do we get a veteran that wants to be in San Antonio? And when you got Victor Wembanyama becoming of age, it's kind of nice to have a guy out there that can just space the floor and be a sharpshooter. So who knows? I wouldn't be upset either way.
Yeah, I think we've talked a bit in some other episodes about maybe, just with their play styles being so similar. One, injuries are going to happen.
True.
So that's both of them will probably get some minutes there. We talked about in the shooting guards breakdown that Champagnie can play the two as well. But also it could just be a thing where depending on who's hot that night, they can really switch those guys in and out.
1000%. 1000%. I know some people criticized, or not criticized, but said Doug McDermott's off ball movement was just world class better than Champagnie. And I don't know if it's world class. I mean, I would say better, obviously, because he's got some veteran savvy, and that's what he's been doing his
So
entire
much more
career.
experience. Champagnie's
Yeah.
a rookie.
But I still saw some glimpses of Champagnie being a high IQ player that knows when to cut, when to fade to the corner, those kind of things. They are very similar in their play style. And the thing that I love about Champagnie the most, I know I'm kind of jumping into this, is
You're
his
good.
confidence level was already, at a 10 when he came in, and actually played meaningful minutes with the Spurs. Like I didn't
Yeah,
expect that at all. I remember like his
me
first
either.
game, we were like, oh, he's getting some garbage minutes here, like whatever. But he came in and he let it fly, and he wasn't just hitting threes. He has like a little in between game. He can pull up,
Yep.
and surprisingly athletic. Get a couple good finishes this year.
I'm really glad you mentioned the athleticism because later on in the year, he started to have some higher rebound games as well. I believe in the Austin game as well as the last game against the Mavericks. Obviously, those and the Austin game I'm referring to is the Portland, not Minnesota. Those are obviously two games that are really easy to pick
Hmm.
because the Blazers weren't playing their top guys and neither were the Mavericks. So that's key context. But still, I mean, even in the short minutes he played, he averaged a rebound more than Doug did. Doug had 2.2. Champagnie only had 3.5. But like I said, as the season progressed, it wasn't just those two games. Those do stick out in my brain. But, during that stretch late in the season when he played, he got more rebounds as well.
Hmm.
just a little bit more of a physical frame. Obviously, still not somebody who's gonna, impose anything on anybody. But when you compare him to Doug, he's just a little bit more stout.
for sure, and maybe has a higher ceiling defensively.
Right, right. And then when you factor in shot 40.2% from three this year, Doug had 41.3. That's why I'm saying I feel like
Interchangeable.
they're going to interchange him. And then after this season, if Champagny continues to play the way that he did at the end of the year, he'll just kind of end up taking that spot. And another thing, when you talked about his confidence, I know a lot of y'all are probably like, why haven't they talked about Keldon yet? But it's just like Champagny and McDermott are very similar. So we
Yeah,
might as well kind of just get him out of the way. And now because I said that, I kind of lost my train of thought here.
something about Keldon. Why haven't they talked about Keldon?
It was before that. I
Talking
think it
about his
was.
confidence level.
Oh yes, that there
There
you
we
go.
go.
So, like you said, when he came in and he was just shooting, I mentioned this in some other post games throughout the season, but the way that he played with the Delaware Bluecoats, and if you go watch any of his G League tape early, in the season when he was playing for Philadelphia's G League team, um, he had multiple 35 plus point games, like four of them. And they all are literally the same way. Like if you go watch the tape in the Moody Center where he had 26 points, I mean, they look so similar because it's just driving to the basket with good off ball movement on a good cut, getting an easy layup. Like you said, I understand people saying Doug's off ball movement is better than Champagny's right now. That's just, I mean, when you compare somebody like Doug McDermott,
Yeah,
who's
it's what
been
he
in the
does.
league for forever, to a rookie, it's like, yes, he's going to be better than him.
For sure.
But still, showed a lot of flashes with that, and then just pull up threes, man, with people's
Hmm.
faces. I've mentioned, I've gone on so many rants about when I was at that Moody Center game, and I really saw it firsthand with some pretty good seats. Um, I love his confidence. That's a great, and I love that it's translated from the G League to the NBA in the small sample size we've seen. The big asterisk I would say with Champagny is the level of competition and that he only played 17 games this season. I still think it's going to translate because of all the stuff that I just said, but just to have a counter argument and cover all the bases, that's
Yeah.
something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, still bring it down to earth. You're right. It's only 17 games, and also there was like a couple games where so he had like a really good game, and then the next couple games he didn't play with Keldon,
Yeah.
Devin, Zach. Like everybody was hurt except for
Yep.
him, and he really stunk it up as far as the box score is concerned. He couldn't get a shot to fall, and that's kind of to be expected. But we're not up here saying that he's going to be a world changer and somebody we're going to build around. We're just saying he's a really solid piece to watch for at that backup spot alongside Doug.
Yeah, especially moving forward. And then just when you consider the fact that, I mean, we got him on a two-way as a
Yeah,
rookie, like
steal.
the value exactly. I mean, it's not the same level of steal like in the shooting guard position breakdown. We were talking about getting Malachi at 20, but
Hmm.
for where we got him, I mean, it's just like Bassey. It's we
It
really
is
we fleeced the Delaware Bluecoats, man.
for two guys.
Except for Mac McClung, we left him there.
Yeah,
But
that's all right. Now we got to complete it. We got to go get Champagne's brother. Kind of off topic, but let's go get what's his name,
Uh, I think it's Justin. I don't know
Justin.
for a fact. I don't really like. I don't think he's as
No, he's definitely not.
good.
But I think it'd be funny to have the
Well,
Champagne's.
now that I think about it, Ethan, we technically need. I mean, I said in the last episode we're probably going to draft that third string shooting guard, but if it doesn't go that way, there's that spot roster spot for the
Yeah,
other Champagny.
and this is sort of off topic, but kind of not. I forgot, and we might have mentioned it before. There's
Hmm.
18 roster spots now.
Yeah.
I mean, not all will be active, obviously, but I think we have a couple more. Is it two-way contracts?
So is this like a league thing? I might have
Yeah,
not
it's
heard
a
about
league thing
this.
because last year it was
Wow.
15. Now it's
Right.
18,
So it must
and
be two way.
I think it's a couple
Interesting.
more two-way guys. So maybe we can get the other Champagny and just put him on a two-way.
Barlow's coming back,
Barlow,
baby.
baby.
We're running it back. That's what I
Oh,
hear when I hear that. I hear
heck yeah.
Dominic Barlow has a
Season,
chance.
season ticket prices just went way up with that news.
When Barlow and Wemby are in the front
Oh
court
man.
together, oh my gosh, dude.
Whew.
Y'all don't, he's going to be unleashed.
Oh, for sure. Dirk and Tyson Chandler vibes for
Yes,
2011.
it's going to be 20 and 20 every game.
For sure. For sure, Jude. Goes without saying.
Oh my gosh, man. That's so funny. For those of you guys who may like not get that joke, I know a lot of y'all jumped on the channel after the Wemby lottery. During the season, I kind of had this thing basically where I was just irrationally high on Dom Barlow just for I don't know, just because it was Overtime Elite. And I just remember growing up in high school watching overtime videos, and now they have a league, and the Spurs are like the last team that I would have expected to go get the first player from Overtime Elite. So shout out to Don Barlow, though. Like, if we have that many two ways, I really don't mind bringing him back at
Me
all.
neither. I mean, he showed a couple flashes there.
Yes,
Put a little strength on him.
definitely a total developmental project, but there's a reason why the Spurs gave him a two-way flyer.
If we're playing the Mavs, we got to play him. We got to
Oh
start
my
him
God.
because
Dude,
Luke is
he's
going
the
to have
king
some
of Texas.
PTSD.
Just wait until Jabari Smith and
Oh
Shenkun's here.
gosh, yeah, they don't know.
Shenkun would eat him, actually.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh my god. Anyways, well,
Yeah.
let's talk about Keldon. Now
Yes.
that we're 10 minutes in and on the small forwards position breakdown, and we haven't talked about Keldon Johnson, the Spurs' leading scorer, their highest paid player, 22 points, 5 boards, 2.9 assists. The leader of the team throughout the season.
Hmm.
I know that even you and I, there's a lot of arguments. I understand if some people believe that Devin's a little bit better than him. I'm not mad at that. I think they're both, it could really go either way. We'll have to see. But still, he was the guy this
Hmm.
season, if you will. And there's a lot of things that I want to get into here, Ethan, but to start off, really, there's not, I don't want to get into the bad because overall it was a really good jump for him in year 4.
Absolutely. I think there was way more positive than there was negative.
Yeah.
The negative would just be nitpicking at that point because he didn't have any sort of winning team around him. Devin was hurt for most of the year. Trey had stretches where he was out. Jeremy Sohan had stretches where he was out. We traded Jakob Poeltl. We traded Josh Richardson. And he was really the only constant we could count on for almost every single night. And
Yeah.
not once did he sell. I can't think of a moment where I was like, oh, Keldon wasn't playing hard, or he wasn't aggressive enough, or he let that one go. Like,
Yeah.
he might have missed a couple shots that he should have hit. He might have thrown the
Right.
ball every once in a while, but
Right.
he was giving it 110%
Yeah. The
effort,
effort.
constantly vocal, constantly picking up the rest of his teammates, riling up the AT&T Center, which was a dismal place to be for the majority of the year,
And the Moody Center, man.
and the Moody
He
Center.
had the Moody Center turn in the
Yes,
Portland game.
in the port. Yeah, that was yeah. I mean, there's so much you could say about Keldon Johnson. I think he made a lot of improvements too. I don't think this was like oh, he's only getting stats because his team's bad. I think he definitely improved in a lot of areas. He started
Yeah.
off incredible from 3-point range. I know it dropped off to the average, which I think it was like
That's kind of
30.
what I was alluding to in the beginning. And I have a lot of stats on that I want to talk to you about, but I wanted to talk about the good first because
Yeah,
there's so much more of it.
I'll hold off then. But I think I know his low post game maybe was a little inconsistent, but I think he made strides as far as being able to come off screens and
Yep.
play make for others. And he had a little bit more of a floater game or a jump shot in that 15, 17 feet area. And then finishing at the rim has always been his biggest
Yep.
strength. If we need a basket, give it to Keldon, let him barrel to the rim. And I think he improved as a finesse finisher as well, because there was a time when he could
Yep.
only finish with strength. And
Mm-hmm.
he got blocked a lot, or he just threw it off the glass a little too hard, or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Now he actually had some finger rolls off the glass, some prettier shots up and unders. So he made a lot of improvements, and I think defensively too,
Yeah.
uh, he made a lot of improvements as well. I don't like bashing Keldon. I know a lot of people want him to go to the bench or they want him to be traded. I'm
Yep.
not one of those people. I think he is a terrific off-ball player as well. Put him next to Devin, put him next to Wemby and Trey. I think he's definitely a vital piece moving forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a reason the Spurs gave him this contract. I know people can make the argument that the contract is tradable, which I agree, but also like every contract that the
Yeah,
Spurs give out is usually pretty conservative. Like, I mean, think about the DeJounte contract. Like, all of those are tradable because they know the nature of the NBA. But I think that's just more the Spurs, their culture basically allowing them to get players to do that. That's what I would
absolutely.
attribute that to more.
Even Kawhi didn't get a max, I don't think,
Right, right.
on
Yeah,
his
he had
first
a
year.
pretty good contract.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like 16, 17 million, kind of similar to the DeJounte one.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the other thing that, I kind of forgot in this, because I was looking at, like in the last position breakdown, I was looking at Devin's improvement year to
Mhm.
year. And the thing I totally forgot about Keldon, I mean, I knew this season, but it's just, and it's kind of easy to forget about because he's really always been this position. but this was the year where he was finally really playing the
Yeah.
3 and the 2. And so people might see that the rebounds went down, but it's like, yeah, that's because that wasn't his job anymore. And
Yeah.
and you saw that, him have 5 more points a game because he had 17 last year, and I
Hmm.
believe he had 6 rebounds last year. Um, and it was funny. I mean, I was even looking at his play-in numbers, bro. Like his first play-in game, he had 11 and 11, and I was like, oh man, that was the DeMar. Like I just
Hmm.
Keldon. Like it took Keldon so long to really be playing where he was supposed to be playing, and
Yeah.
so that I think also on top of him just developing each year, I think that helped a lot. Um, when it came to his percentage at the basket. Obviously, that wasn't really an issue in the first place, but it was a little bit easier not having to be guarded by, you know, uh, if you're playing the Timberwolves, it would have been Cat. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He
100%.
and coming out, of Kentucky, he was a really a guard slash forward. So I was glad he got to play that more this year. Obviously, we saw the shooting explosion at the beginning of the year. I'm trying to think of some other good stuff to say, but really, you kind of summarized it all. So that's where I get to this question, and it's the shooting fall off. Is it a concern? And Ethan, I've this whole year I've been very like not worried about it. And I'm still on like I would still say I'm more optimistic about it moving forward than I am concerned about it. But after looking at the numbers, I understand people's concern much more. Like a lot of comments we've had. Um, and just to me looking at the numbers, and I know stats aren't everything, but when I really dive into these, I think y'all will understand how it's just kind of blatantly in front of you. And that's that last year, not this last season, but 21-22, he averaged 39.8% from 3.
Hmm.
Right, almost 40%. Right. So, and we remember that jump last year. And it's kind of crazy because it feels like he almost shot better this year,
Hmm.
like just when I think back on it. But that's really more concentrated in the barrage at the beginning of the season because he ended up falling to 32.9%. He still made the same amount of game at 2.1. But here's the number that I'm like, when I was reading this, I was like, okay, I get where everybody's kind of coming from. He dropped from 159 threes made total on 399 attempts to 134 total on 407 attempts. So that's where I can understand, like he
Hmm.
took more shots and made, 25 less,
Yeah.
So I really do get the concern there, but I just feel like a lot of it has to do with the mental side of things because he started so hot. And this is total speculation. Y'all can
Hmm.
disagree in the comments. I understand. But I think a lot of it has to do with him starting off so hot, then going through like that slump. And then it was like at the end of the season, it was like the middle of the season, it was like, man, he could barely make one. And then by the end of the season, when he stopped thinking about it, and we talked about the hesitation throughout the season as well. It felt like at the beginning of the season, he was just popping it,
Hmm.
no hesitation. And then it was like when he started missing more, he started thinking about it more, it felt like,
For
and
sure.
hesitating more. Also, the injuries, have a lot to do with this as well. When you take Devin Vassell off that team, all
Hmm.
the attention is on Keldon. Like
Yeah.
literally all of it. So I think it's a combination of the circumstances, the hesitation, which to me indicates a little bit of it being in his head, which would make sense if you start off the season, like the best you've ever shot, and then you fall off. And then, like I said, I felt like in the set, the end of the year, it got a little bit better. It wasn't as bad as it kind of was in that little slump in the middle of the season. Do you feel like was that what you saw this season as well?
That's completely warranted. I agree with you. And I would even add a couple more things. One, last year with DeJounte, he was very much a spot up shooter. And the only time he really took a three was when he was
Derek was
wide
there for a
open.
little bit too.
Derek as well. He had ball handlers that could play make for him. So he was getting wide open threes, stand and shoot. This year he really had the ball in his hands a lot, especially after Trey got hurt early in the year. He came back, but then Devin went down as well. So
Right.
now he's got the ball in his hands. He's having to play make for others, and he took a lot
And
of
with
threes.
Sohan too, like you
Mhm.
said,
He took a lot of threes coming off of screens where
off the
he
dribble.
never did that before. Like that
Yep.
was not a part of his game. And so that definitely would have bogged down his 3-point percentage. And then also we were down a lot of the year. Like we were playing from behind constantly. So what do you do when you're down by 30?
Right.
You shoot threes. Even if they're ill-advised
Yeah.
threes. So I feel like that coupled with what you said about his confidence level, and then just circumstances of the entire year is just it's bound to drop your percentage.
Yeah, and while I gave those numbers, like the actual difference per game, it's
Hmm.
still, like I said, it's actually the same number of made threes per game. That didn't change at all. It's still 2.1 from
Yeah,
last season to this season.
it just took
It's
more.
just he took, and what that averages out per game, Ethan, is
Hmm.
he was 2 for 5 last year and 2 for 6 this year. He averaged 6 attempts, which when you factor in with what you just said, not just even what I was talking about, but like how much we were playing from behind, really it's like, okay, that actually kind of, other people in the comments might be like, no, it's still a concern. But
Yeah,
when I think about that, I'm like, honestly, when you say that, I'm like, yeah, that's going to add in an extra 3 a game. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So really, that kind of mean like that at that point, it's like it almost didn't even change that much. But I still do understand the concern. That's something that I want to see improved from him next season. I want to see him closer to that 40% mark. That's not me sitting here saying that his jump shot's perfect. But really, other than that, Ethan, this was the other thing I wanted to touch on also earlier. I felt like he defensively throughout the season, he got better. That's still, I would say that, getting the shooting back to where it was, at the beginning of the season. I mean,
hmm,
I don't know if it's always going to be like that, but just better, being more consistent throughout the year.
yeah.
And then just continuing to get better on defense, because I saw that improvement. There's still some areas where he can get better. And I believe that in a live stream we did a while back, Ethan, somebody in the comments might have said that he said publicly somewhere that no, in his end of season press conference, this is what it was. He said defense was one of the main things he wanted to focus on this season. And when you factor in all the offensive improvements
Yeah.
that you mentioned, when we first started talking about him, that makes sense. So, getting that percentage back to, a consistent base where we're not falling in and out this season. And then defense. But, once again, the big asterisk with all of this, Ethan, is Wembenyama, because,
Hmm.
regardless of what happens with him this season, like he's going to attract so much attention, which will probably give Keldon a bunch more open shots.
For sure, for sure. And the only thing I would also add to his improvement list is 1 or 2 dribble pull up jumpers.
Yep.
That's it.
Off the dribble. Yeah, because like you said, we saw more of those. They didn't fall as much. If some of those can start falling, that would really take. I feel like that would take his game to the next level if he got an
For
off the
sure.
dribble game.
How many? You have the stats in front of you still?
Here, let me go back. I can pull them up.
I was just curious, how many free throws a game did he get?
Let me see here.
Because he's one of the most aggressive players in the league as far as getting
Yeah,
to the
dude,
cup.
it was kind of crazy because I didn't realize that NBA.com had like, dude, they have like some crazy stats. Here, this is old. But like they have like literally they have dribbles like before a shot. Like they have one dribble, two dribble shots, closest defender 0 to 2 feet. You can see his percentage for like when he's got a player within 2 feet of him. Like
Hmm.
it's there's a lot of different stuff here. And then there's also like the shot clock range. I mean, and then
Wow.
there's just like the straight up like the shot range as well. Like what was his percentage from 25 feet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so on and so on. So there was a lot of cool stuff I had, but you were asking about free throws, correct?
Yes, because I was watching that one-on-one Devin Vassell and George Gervin,
Yeah.
and remember George
I
Gervin was
love
asking
that
how
one.
many. He goes, what you averaging right now?" And he was like 20. He goes, "How many free throws you got?" He's like 4. And he goes, "Ugh." And
I
he
remember
like
that.
spit
That
it.
man, you need to get to the live mo.
Yeah, he's like, "You're
I
leaving
love
5 at the
George,
line."
bro.
He goes, "You could be averaging 25 easy."
I know, but he's right.
Yeah,
He's
he's
right.
not wrong. He's
I
not
know.
wrong.
Okay, they didn't help me out there, but so I'm going to basketball reference.
Take your time, Jude.
Okay, so his free throw attempts per game was the highest in his career this year at 5.2,
Excellent,
and he
excellent.
made 4 of them.
Let's keep that going. Let's keep that
Yeah,
going up.
and let me see here. Yeah, so previously in his career, listen to this. It really didn't change much. It technically went up each season. It went from 2.6 to 2.8 to 3.1, but
Hmm.
this was the big jump. So man, Keldon's got to tell George. He's got to be like, hey, Ice, look what
Yeah,
you got to tell me to you got to tell Devin to get in the gym with me, man. I got to teach him all I know.
dude. I'm
And
looking.
that go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just gonna say they both put on so much muscle and they're so
Yeah.
like formidable as far as like I almost said specimen, but that sounds funny. But I'm excited to see them go up against Victor in practice
Yeah.
because that'll be like the perfect. Pop's gonna find out quick if Victor can take big bodies going
Bro,
into his chest. Like
Keldon's probably they're not gonna want to hurt him, but they're gonna want to
he's licking his chops.
they're gonna want to test him. They're
Yeah,
just gonna want to see. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But in the one-on-one, Devin's like ice. That's why I said that. So I was saying that Keldon's he's gotta troll Devin. He's gotta get Gervin to troll him about Keldon being better than him.
he should. He absolutely should.
I just feel like that would be funny. That would be some great that would be some good like um
HEB commercial.
that'd be a good HEB commercial, but that would also be some great what's the big screen in the middle of the Jumbotron.
Jumbotron.
It would
Yeah.
be some good Jumbotron content as well.
They should hire us to do Jumbotron stuff.
They should hire us for a lot of things, Ethan.
We're like the old men in the Muppet Show that watch from the perch. You know what I'm talking about?
And we just criticize.
Yeah, we just throw out. We roast the other team the entire time.
Oh my gosh. Well, man, honestly, like I said at the beginning, it felt like this position was the most set, and I feel like this is probably the most positive we've been on a position so far. As much as Devin and Malachi are, we're very positive about them, but then at the end, we had our segment on Romeo. God bless him. But it was like this one we could be like, we like
God
all these
bless
guys. They'll probably be back.
God bless him. I love that.
I feel bad for him because he's really not that bad. Like that's what I mean.
He's not. He's not.
Anyways.
Third string two guard. He's legit.
Right. Anyways, y'all, thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll be back with some more position breakdowns. I almost said prospect profiles again, Ethan. We'll be back with some more position breakdowns. If you're wondering in the next two if Wembanyama will be in it, he probably won't because once again, this is the pre-draft, pre-off-season position breakdown. Obviously, we will still mention him, as being a big factor potentially at both of those positions in each video. But as of right now, we'll focus on Sohan, Mamu, people like that. And of course, Zach Collins and Charles Bassey moving forward.
KBD, don't forget my boy.
And you can't forget about KBD. But anyways, y'all, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And if you want to follow us on Twitter and stay up to date, at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. We appreciate y'all. We'll catch y'all on the next one. See y'all later.